Everyone, happy Friday. How's it going? Got James and Caro here on the space. I thought I'd start up a space because it's been a while, but also I see a lot of FUD going around right now, a concerted, what I would call concerted PR campaign to try and confuse people. And also I think in general it's good to give an update about what's going on, but I saw these people going crazy trying to push this agenda, so I thought I would make a space and clear up the air and explain what's happening with achain and XPR and the vision for it and what's been done over the past year. A lot has been done. But yeah, I just wanted to get a space going and tell you guys all about it. I don't know if anyone wants to speak. I added two co-hosts. I added Caro and James, but if anyone wants to be a speaker, just raise your hand and I'll add you up. So yeah, achain. What are we doing? What's the point of this upgrade and what's the vision for it? How's it going to work? A lot of people have been asking questions, and since I've been so quiet, I think it left an opportunity for the FUD people and the people that want to push their own private agenda to try and confuse people. So saw that going around, but a lot of work has been done and it's really exciting, what we're doing. The vision and why we started it was because XPR was intended to have fast and free payments and to be decentralized, but simultaneously can work with banks and fintechs and can have that reg tech built in, but also can be, what everyone sees in things like Solana. I think XPR is a lot better, right, at doing that. And it can even achieve faster speeds and has that capability to have at names and decentralized identity and so forth, but it's still a relatively small network. When we started building this it's been almost 5 years ago now. We started before 2020 with the vision originally called XID for Decentralized Digital Identity. We started down the path with Antelope and EOS. We looked at that because we felt that was a really good foundation for what we were trying to build. It was scalable. Vitalik Buterin himself has called it Ethereum on steroids at one point, and I think that's honestly pretty accurate. Ultimately, sorry, I'm just going to let Bullish up to the stage here. Ultimately, what happened was we ended up forking that protocol, modifying some things around the resources and staking and the way that it works, and new wallet creation and so forth. And we have the XPR that we know and love today, and I think it's fantastic. Ultimately, we recognize that as crypto evolves and blockchain evolves, Antelope either has to evolve or, we want to be a part of that as a core developer of XPR. We wanted to speed up the block times, the time to settlement, time to order execution and so forth. We wanted to make XPR even faster. We got invited, I want to say around 2021, to join Antelope Coalition, which is, or I guess you call it the EOS Network Foundation has like a Antelope Coalition that's basically a bunch of other blockchains such as Wax, Telos, UX, etc., who have been working on upgrading the core code after they kind of ousted the original core dev V1. And I think they've done a good job, but when we were initially approached, the pitch was, hey, come and join our coalition, this open source coalition. We're going to work on this stuff. And at first I said, that sounds great. But then it kind of changed several things. One, the vision was not something that I thought made a lot of sense, which was, hey, let's, the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, is so popular. Let's put that inside of Antelope. But I could see that very clearly Ethereum is not just a network effect of solidity of the coding language, but also of the developer community and ETH as an asset. So all these other L1s, they want to be EVMs. Everyone launched their EVM, right? But that doesn't mean that everyone comes over to these other L1s. In some cases, they did. The closer they were to Ethereum, like Polygon, the more I think they attracted, people from the Ethereum community, developers and so forth to come over. But I just felt that trying to ram the EVM inside of Antelope didn't really make a lot of sense, right? People either want to do it or they want to do, C++ or TypeScript. They want to do something different. And when we started, Antelope did not have TypeScript capability. To this day, EOS, it can have it. I don't know if they've implemented that yet, although that library was originally written by B1. But I don't think it's on Wax or Telos. But anyways, they wanted to implement the EVM, and we thought, well, that's kind of a strange direction, because where I see the future going is modularity, which ultimately has proven to be true if you look at what's happened now. And I coined that term layer zero. Someone might have used that term before or said that, but I definitely was the first person to talk about L0 as modularity. When Avalanche was calling itself an L1 for gaming, I was saying, no, it's actually an L0, right? And so is Cosmos and so forth. So the Antelope group run by ENF, the core devs of EOS, approached us and said, hey, look, we want you to join, but you have to pay us $1 million a year, and you have to volunteer your devs time. And I thought that was really crazy because, it's one thing, it costs money just to volunteer the devs time, and that's a distraction from our roadmap and our vision. So we really better be tightly aligned. And then the real nail in the coffin was, pay $1 million a year. Okay, we're not going to do that, right? Because there's so much more we can do with that money and different things, especially if I don't agree with the vision that, hey, let's put this square peg into a round hole. Didn't make a lot of sense to me. Ultimately, they've done it, and I think that they've done a good job with a lot of the work that they're doing. But my vision, that I saw for it was the modularity, right? Look at Avalanche. That is clearly a trend. And when I was talking about that, when we forked Avalanche in summer of 22, it wasn't a top 10 coin. It wasn't top 10 asset at that point. But over time, the popularity around it has risen because it is the right infrastructure. It does make the most sense, in my opinion, and it does scale. And we're seeing that, right? Because obviously, now it's in the top 10. There's more attention on it. There's more TVL inside of it. So we forked Avalanche and took a different route and said, hey, let's create blockchains for banks, because that's, we had been working on the idea of creating decentralized ledgers for banks, financial institutions, and creating a web that would connect them. And this made the most sense, right? The modular blockchain where you could have private and public blockchains side by side that could be linked over a bridge that didn't require any centralized trust. So when it came to XPR, the vision was basically, hey, let's take this beautiful thing that we built that's really focused around the community, that's open. It's not a bank, it's a DAO, if you want to call it that, a decentralized autonomous organization that now votes on different funding proposals and network changes, and it's pretty active if you check out the XPR network governance dashboard. But anyways, the idea was basically to rewrite all of the Antelope code into Golang, and that's what we did. So from 2022 to 2023, last year, all the way into 2024, our CTO at Metallicus, Glenn, has rewritten all of that code from C++ into Golang. Now we're in the final phases working with one of the original core EOS devs as a auditor and also a code partner. And you're going to see, I'm going to publish some information pretty soon about what the final pieces are to that transition. And one of the things is, as people have gotten, know that this is coming up, there's all of this FUD and misinformation flowing around. Because when you look at like Ethereum, when it had the Ethereum Classic event, there was a fork and you ended up with 2 coins. And so from that point forward, everybody thought, and also Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, people look at that and they think, okay, it's guaranteed a fork if you're going to have some sort of hard network upgrade. And that was definitely something when we started doing this work, I was, concerned about, okay, well, we could have a fork, we could have some sort of situation like that. The further we got along, the more we started to realize how incredible our partner was, but also Glenn's code and our vision. It really could be put together in such a way that the transition would be seamless. In the beginning, I was definitely very nervous. How do you do this? How do you move all the assets over? What about loan? What about rept, X tokens, assets, things like that? Because, will you have to log in and migrate them? Ultimately, what Glenn realized working with our partner, was that we could essentially replicate the entire chain state of XPR and move it over. And it's a pretty big innovation, I would say, because when it comes to migration in the past, you kind of have to have some sort of manual migration process, a contract, or some sort of airdrop, and that was kind of the old way of doing it. But the new way of doing it, the way that we're looking at, essentially, and what we're about to present, is we're going to replicate all of the chain state of the DPoS version of XPR. We're going to deploy that chain state onto Metal blockchain. So all of your past transactions, all of your staking weight, votes, everything, all of that is there when we essentially upload that to the chain. And then at a certain block, and of course this is the final piece, is going to the block producers, going to the public and saying, hey, do you want to make this transition? And if we do, which I suspect we probably will, because what do we get out of it? We go from minutes to finality to under a second to finality, and we increase our speed by I think 15% or something like that. And pretty soon, with a lot of the work that Ava Labs is doing, Metallicus is doing, we'll be up to 100,000 TPS, right? So we'll be up there with the fastest blockchains in the world. But achain, in our benchmarking, already is the fastest blockchain in the world. There is no blockchain that's settling and executing transactions faster than this. In fact, the benchmark tool that we use to measure it, we're not exactly sure how fast it is, because it's faster in most cases than the benchmark tool can measure time to execution. So we know it's under 100 milliseconds, which, if you look, everything else is well over that. Although, there's progress being made every day. But anyways, we're pretty close to releasing that. And people have asked me if it's going to come this year. But I guess, again, to answer the question, and this is where, as we get closer to launch, this is where opportunists will seize the opportunity to try and misinform people or say things. And people said, oh, why are you engaging them or telling people it's misinformation? Because it is. You don't want to go around telling people, scaring people to do things with their private keys, so they lose their private keys or they're panicking or whatever. It's just not correct. So, what I wanted to do was to come and explain kind of the history behind that. But also when it comes to the migration, which I'm about to post the information, we will halt the old chain and start the new chain, essentially one block apart. So at one point, the old DPoS network halts, the new one begins with all of the old chain state history. And it's basically just, 1,000% faster on, so actually, I think a lot faster than that, but I think 3,000% faster or something like that on finality. But that's pretty much it. Essentially, one day you will wake up and inside your wallet, it will be the new achain. And that will be it. And, and people have asked, could you have the classic? Well, in the old version, if you kept that chain going into airdrop, yeah, you could have an old classic. And someone could theoretically restart the chain and go at it, build your own wallet, build your own, all this stuff. But you could also just start fresh and just build a blockchain on your own. And that doesn't stop anyone from doing that. But I thought I would get up today and explain some of this and answer some questions as I prepare to launch this document, because knowing that people are actively trying to, misinform people and get these kind of groups together going where people get all nervous and scared and make bad decisions, or handling your private key is definitely something that you want to be cautious about how you do it. I'm not saying don't make backups, because you should make a backup. If you open a WebAuth account, you theoretically got your 12-word seed and you made a backup, and you should have backups of your keys. But just be careful where you put your key, and that's one of the other reasons that I was concerned that people were, telling people to do stuff. We were getting a lot of support tickets about how people should handle their keys. And I think Metallicus will probably release a blog at some point soon, just, brush up for our users on their own security, how to handle keys, how to do some of this stuff. We published stuff like that in the past, but yeah, I'm really excited about achain. There is no Proton Classic, and if there is, it's some completely new blockchain that somebody else is building, not us. And once you see our proposal, you'll see that there isn't a fork, but essentially just a network consensus upgrade. And I guess the last part I'll cover about that is the way that that works from the consensus side is that you have metal validators. Now we have over 100 metal validators, and when we launched Metal Blockchain, we told all of the validators on XPR, hey, we will sponsor you to create a validator, which they did, which I think almost all of them did, or most all of them did. Those validators will also be running a piece of code that will allow for the achain, so the fourth subnet. So once that's updated, then we'd be ready to essentially halt the old block production, and start the new block production. But I'm not a big fan of forks, hard forks that create those forked assets because it creates all sorts of weird, perverse incentives. And when I look at like ETC or something, yeah, it's a multi-billion-dollar market cap, but when was the last time you used Ethereum Classic for anything? Probably never, right? So I think it just creates weird incentives, and we probably want to avoid that. But either way, we're going to put it up for proposal, and people are going to see what we've been working on for the past 2 years. And I think it's pretty cool. It's the fastest blockchain in the world right now. So I'll stop there. I don't know if one of our hosts wants to talk or somebody wants to ask some questions, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, I have one question. So one of the things that comes up, Marshall, is the token itself and how that will be handled in the migration. Is that also just going to be seamless in the sense that that will be shifted across by yourselves, or will it be, I will, as a user, I will have to do something to move that across?
No, yeah, you wouldn't have to do anything. So from the centralized exchange standpoint, as long as we got the DAO and community and BP approval, we will notify exchanges. What they do is they just halt deposits and withdrawals from their end, right? So now you can't go back out in the other network. You can take in deposits. And then they launched the new deposit schema and withdrawal schema, which is using the Metal blockchain. So the addresses will still look the same. So if you're at Metal, at James, your at name, that will all stay the same, but now it'll just be using a different blockchain. But basically, WebAuth, MetalX, the loan protocol, all of that stuff will just kind of pop up on the new consensus. And from a user perspective, it's like nothing changed. It just, you woke up one day and your software was updated and it was infinitely faster.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's go to Bullish. He come up and then we can go to Draghi.
What's going on, guys? What's up, James, Marshall, Kern, Draghi? I don't really have a question because I live in Marshall's basement, so I kind of know everything. He has like a nice little setup for me down there. But I wanted to just address the thing about keys and anchoring your wallet to an additional wallet, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Listen, I'm not going to stand up here and say you have to use WebAuth wallet. It's the best wallet in the world, but it's the wallet I use. And as far as anchoring your keys, your wallet to another wallet, it is absurd, and it makes no sense, because what you're doing is you're opening another door to your house. So picture you have a house, and there's one door, and there's only one way to get into that house. When you anchor, and I'm using my hands right now, quote unquote, to another wallet, picture that house now has a back door to the house instead of just that one door. Pick a wallet. If you want to use Anchor Wallet, fine. Stay with that wallet. If you want to use WebAuth Wallet, fine. Stay with that wallet. If you want additional security, you get a UV key. Now, that's not opening up another door to your house. That's reinforcing that one door that you have on your house. So don't listen to these guys. They're trying to say that's the only way you'll be able to stay on Proton Classic and this and that. No. If that was the case, then don't take the bridge. Just stay where you are. If we were going to keep a Proton Classic, whatever, but that's not even going to happen. So they're just trying to confuse everyone. Makes absolutely no sense. Alcor, or whatever the wallet is, sure, they use Secure Enclave. They could be the best company in the world, A++ rating, never had a mishap. It's still unnecessary to open up another door to your house. That's all.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree. Thanks, Bullish. What Bullish said is accurate, and I'll emphasize that there's nothing wrong with Anchor Wallet. It's a good wallet, right? Built by the Greymass team. Aaron, have done great work. It's a very good application. I don't have any issues with it, but my issue was basically, people trying to misinform people, right? This is going to happen or that's going to happen. I think it's best to probably listen to the core dev and BPs versus some random person that's telling you whatever. And especially, I don't think that I didn't see anything like this, but if they said, hey, put your private key into this website, especially if it wasn't something other than Anchor, hey, you got a new wallet, be very, very cautious. I would recommend not doing anything like that. I don't think I saw that, but that happens in crypto, and people should be vigilant and aware of that stuff. But yeah, Bullish is also right. Every time you expose your key to another app, that's another app that has your key. And also correct about the way that WebAuth works. So WebAuth, you can add devices, you can add multiple devices. That isn't making a master key copy, which would be the equivalent of giving someone your owner key, or in traditional like IT, computer science, that would be like your root key to your machine. You don't give that information out. What WebAuth does is it authorizes other keys that are sub keys, what are known as active keys, that don't have the permission to change the owner or the root key. So WebAuth is really great in that sense, that from a security perspective, because you can add multiple devices, and if you lose a device, you can remove it, or if you go to sell it, you can remove it. But those keys on those devices don't have the ability to change the ownership of the account, and it's a more secure model, right? Where you only have one owner key floating around. You can do similar things like this with Anchor, where you have like an active key setup, but it doesn't have the UI to really do that very simply. So you have to be more advanced. And if you are that advanced, then you might want to explore our command line client, which is open source on GitHub, and that even has more capability than any of the wallets. It's just, it's very hackery because you're doing everything by typing. But yeah, this always happens in crypto where, when you're making a big transition, when Ethereum was going to proof of stake, you had a lot of people, I think from the Bitcoin camp, that were saying, Ethereum can't do this, blah, 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 blah. This is going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. And at the end, they pulled it off. And now Ethereum is proof of stake, and it's a, very large blockchain, second largest blockchain in the world, and it hasn't gone down, and it doesn't have issues, and there is no Ethereum Classic. I think that the foundation learned from their experience with the DAO fork about Ethereum Classic that it wouldn't be good to have, a third. I guess technically there's like an aux POW or whatever, but they managed it much better, and it's not like Ethereum Classic where, it's this top coin or anything like that. With our situation, I want to avoid that completely. So, and for good reason, because you don't want to have these weird perverse incentives where people are trying to gamify the fork to airdrop or whatever. For those people that really believe that, go and start your own blockchain, right? You can do it, right? You don't need to wait. You don't need to wait for the fork of XPR to try and hijack it or whatever. Go at it on your own. But that being said, when we do this transition, we didn't want to present it unless it was going to be fluid, where you would just be able to kind of quickly tap over. And as far as presenting it as well, we're not going to do anything until we put up our proposal on the DAO Dash and get the BP's approval as well. So there's some final phases. This isn't just like tomorrow we're going to wake up and we're going to say this. We're going to present our technical plan shortly, so people can see the amount of thought and detail that's gone into this and how this is going to work. But also from the governance perspective, we're going to put up a DAO proposal. We're also going to talk with all the BPs and make sure that they're ready as well. One last thing I'll add that makes it really very cool and very exciting, besides the technical speed and support, is in the past, it was difficult for anyone to become a BP. If you want to become a block producer on XPR, you have to have really heavy IT chops and technical chops. And you have to have access, not only that, you have to have access to like a data center. And so that's kind of rare. Not everybody has that. So hence we only have like 29 or 30 BPs, right? We have over 100 validators on Metal, and it's not even half the age of XPR yet. And I think within a year or two, we'll be over 1,000, only to thousands. The exciting thing about this upgrade beyond those technical pieces is that anybody who's running a Metal validator can now become a Proton. A lot of you are otherwise become a BP because you don't have access to a data center. You don't have, there's a lot of learning to do, to get over that hurdle. But the way that Metal's built, it's so much more efficient and easier to set up. Anyone can become a BP. So, and the BPs in, XPR are more about the governance than they are of the block validation. And that's kind of what we figured out. Like getting into the top 21 is more of a governance thing than a consensus thing. And it's a really good governance thing. But the problem that we ran into was we just have BPs. So we don't have enough competition. And I think I'm one that, scares both sides, like, oh, things are changing, right? But I think we can all agree at the end of the day, more competition, more excitement, more people trying to get into the top 21 means more activity. And when it's really purely focused on governance and not so much focused on the, worrying about the consensus layer all the time, then I think we get more output and more community involvement. So that was the last thing I want to say is very soon. Yeah.
Just one other thing, and I'll step down while we're on the subject, and I got everyone's attention. They're also trying to use an old screenshot of Marshall talking about Anchor Wallet, use the Anchor Wallet for Proton, blah, blah, blah. Yes, because this was before WebAuth was created. Like Marshall said, there's nothing wrong with that wallet. It is a great wallet. Pick a wallet, stay with that wallet, and just, if you want extra security, use a YubiKey key. Just because, like, they're trying to use his old words from 2021 to be like, look, he's hiding it from you. Anchor's the best. There's a reason why you want to anchor to your keys back to the Anchor wallet. He even said it himself. Yes, because WebAuth wallet wasn't created then. There was only Proton wallet 2.0 or whatever it was, and Anchor wallet, and Anchor was the only one using the secure enclave. So he was being generous and nice and saying, use this wallet because it has secure enclave until we're able to build one ourselves. So he even went a step above and said, use a competitor's wallet rather than ours because he wants people to be safe. So it's an old screenshot. I'm sure you will see it. It's making its way around. Pick one wallet, stick with it, and get a YubiKey. Don't be backing up wallets and introducing another door.
Yeah, just one thing bullish on that note. Generally, when you see screenshots of things, different documents, understand one, right? Ask yourself, what are the motives of these individuals involved? Because you will have people who will try to stir discontent because they are looking to short and profit off the panic of others. So they're looking to, there's some individuals who are looking to profit at the expense of others. There's others who will take screenshots, maybe 3-4 screenshots, put them in a post, and they will leave out other important pieces of context to push a particular viewpoint, to shape your opinion, and that wider context that's missing matters. And, Marshall's here. He jumped on a Friday. He's done it before. Plenty of times he's come on at early hours in the morning, crazy times with myself. The others from Metallicus have done the same thing. We've had Will on, we've had Paul on, we've had Arena on, Karen in the past. The team will answer the questions directly, and they will answer you. Now, you know, the problem is some people won't accept those answers, but if you do ask the questions, it might be an answer that you think, okay, I disagree with that, that's fine, but they will be truthful with you, they will be honest with you. So it's just best that, you know, go direct to source, get the answer you need. That's one part. The other part is wait for the proposal or the official announcements, because until you have the facts of the matter and the actual content on the table to discuss, basically you are simply making decisions or you are acting on the basis of hearsay. And generally, whether it's in this ecosystem, whether it's in crypto, whether it's in anything in life, if you are making decisions on the basis of hearsay rather than actuals, then that is not a good situation to be in. Wait for the actuals to come out, judge the proposals, judge the announcements on the merits of what's in them, the actual content, and then have the conversation and act accordingly. So that's, you know, that's all I wanted to say, Marshall. I don't know if there's something you want to add to that, because you know, there's more than just one document. There's something you want to add to that before we move to Draghi.
Yeah, no, that you guys covered it really well. You know, and again, there's nothing wrong with, you know, you should have your key backed up. Because I saw people were saying like they're trying to convince us not to back up our keys. No, like when you onboard onto WebAuth, it's the first thing that it makes you do. But if you somehow manage to get past that screen and you don't know where your keys are outside of the app, you should go into the app and extract a private key and store it safely, at least in a couple places. You know, printed copy, an encrypted copy. I think it was Albosec that had the phrase that was 321. You know, 3 copies. 2 nearby and 1 offsite or something like that. It's a pretty good method. But do not put it, you know, on a file like privatekeys.txt on your desktop folder or something. That's a bad idea. But you know, keep it safe, make a couple copies. And if you want to use Anchor, use Anchor. There's nothing wrong with it. But spreading misinformation that it's going to do X and Y and Z, you know, people panic and lose their keys and do stupid things, or God forbid, you know, you go to some sort of. I had someone message me recently and said what they had done was they had sent some, I think it was metal into their sent the metal blockchain coin into their Ethereum address on MetaMask. And so they're trying to get it out. So it's kind of complicated because you have to switch networks. Well, it's not that complicated, but this user was kind of struggling with this and he had to switch networks to the metal blockchain, enter in some manual information. And he sent me a screenshot and it was a phishing site. And he's like, I can't figure it out. And I looked at the URL and it's like something.de. It wasn't MetaMask, right? So you have to be really careful who you listen to and information. Everything is, you know, we post on xprnetwork.org. You can find the info. But yeah, there's no plans for a fork. We're going to publish our technical specs pretty soon. We've been working for about 2 years on this. And, you know, you might have seen the other week, Avalanche, the C chain halted, just came to a halt because of inscriptions on Avalanche. You know, we have the solution to that. And we're about to publish it. And I think that, you know, also with the partners and clients that we have in the banking and finance world, which you're going to start to be able to really see. I think people have seen like some little teasers around, this is, you know, talking about metal blockchain, but teasers around that, but that's going to start to really shape up. And everything that we built with this it does solve a really big problem, right? Blockchain scalability is a huge issue. Solana is fast, but the running joke is that it goes down all the time. And it's not just Solana, right? Even Avalanche, which is a great blockchain, obviously, you know, goes down because of the way the EVM is just built. So that happens under stress. But you know, solution is you know what we built. And you know, the other piece to that is, you know, we're getting ready to launch the Metal L2. It's funny because I see all this hate coming from the Avalanche community towards the Ethereum community, where they're saying like, oh, you know, this L2 is using eigenlayer and it has, you know, ZK rollups and blah 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 and all this gobbledygook. But it's funny because it's like, that's where all the activity, you know, why are you guys jealous, right? Like that's where all the activity is. Yeah, there might be a lot of tape and string to it, but the way that I see it, if you can essentially create a bridge to something scalable like Metal, where you have banks and financial institutions and fintechs deploying on it, then it becomes really, really valuable.
They're trying to create the
sorry, we can go to Drake.
They're trying to create the narrative, Marshall, that somehow with the new update with WebAuth, you know, when you're accepting or whatever, that Metallicus is going to funnel everyone in, and then they're going to pull the rug and drain everybody's wallet. That's another reason why you got to back up your wallet on Anchor. As if Metallicus doesn't want to continue business, they're just going to rug everyone and go to jail? Like,
yeah, it's like an absurd thing I saw. And I was like, you know, we were getting ready to, it's funny because Arena and Glenn and I were getting ready to update the community about it. And it's funny how things go because the market has been very bullish and people are excited. And when that happens, you get extreme euphoria, and you also get people that are really upset for whatever reason. They feel like they missed out, whatever, and they want to, you know, scream, right? And, you know, for the past 2 years when we were in the bear winter period, you have a lot of people doom posting, and that's very popular. But now things have changed. And, you know, anytime you have some sort of big upgrade like Ethereum proof of stake, same thing, right? People are going to come in, they're going to FUD, they're going to take their shot because more often than not, they have some sort of ulterior motive. And, you know, if there is some other team that wants to replicate what Metallicus is doing, and I can tell you there are a lot, but the group that's trying to spread this information, yeah, right, because I don't see any technical talent over there. But, you know, the way that things are going and everything that we're building, I think it's going to be an incredible launch when we get it up there. And yeah, you know, the other thing too is it's not like this is going to be like a forced proposal or a forced upgrade. We're going to make a proposal pretty soon that's going to be, you know, these are the final pieces. We're going to seek a small grant to complete some of the work, which is I guess basically the audit portion. And we're going to post all of the work that's been done for the past 2 years, what is being done in the audit and some code changes or code fixes. And once that's complete, then we would essentially go to exchanges, go to all the partners and wallets and plan to upgrade and have an upgrade day, but only if the community approves it. And I said that when we started the work. So pretty soon you'll see that come up, but it's not like it's going to be something that the community doesn't have a say about and it just changes or something. And, for the record, I've been watching very closely different teams, how they've handled things. I saw recently the Starkware token launch, and it was very similar where, very similar. It was very bad in the sense that they didn't listen to what people were saying and what the community wanted. And I don't think that it really went as well as it could have. For us, I really want the community to be the voice behind that. And the only way that we make a migration is when everyone is ready and we fully, get across the line and vote for that to happen.
Draghi, over to you, man. Thanks for waiting.
Hi, Marshall. Hi, panel. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Yep.
Awesome. Firstly, I just want to say, Marshall, thanks for fronting the community. I know the crypto community can be a bit funny sometimes, but, a lot of people appreciate your enthusiasm and your transparency, so that's pretty cool. My question was actually about WebAuth. I think it's a good segue to what we're talking about. And what I'm sort of interested in understanding is that, and I don't know how much you can say, but
I think my app might be broken because I can't hear anyone if anyone's speaking.
Oh, okay.
I'll jump up. I'll get out and come back.
Okay, so
I can hear you, James.
Yeah, Draghi was speaking. He's going to drop out and come back in. In the meantime, let's go to Scott, and then we can come back to Draghi.
Cool. Can everyone hear me?
Marshall, can you hear Scott?
No, I'm saying I think it might be me because I can hear you, James, but for some reason I'm not hearing anyone besides you speaking.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
I'll drop off.
I might be. I don't know if I leave, if I'm going to end the space though, so I don't want to leave and end the space. Maybe you could just tell me what they're saying. I don't know if they can hear me.
Can you hear Marshall? Scott?
Yeah, I can hear everyone.
Okay, right. So if you ask the question, and I will do my best to relay that question the right way to Marshall.
Sure. Yeah, the answer to this might come out in the proposal and details of the migration and upgrade, but just was curious regarding the XPR tokens, whether or not they're staked or unstaked. Does that affect the migration in any way, or is it seamless either way?
So Marshall, the questions regarding the tokens that are staked and unstaked, and whether there will be any impact with the migration, will that be seamless, or how will all of that go down when it comes to staked and unstaked assets?
Yeah, so this is a really cool thing that our partner was able to help us figure out, was that we were worried about that, right? Because you have not only dApps that Metallicus has made, but you have other platforms that allow staking and things like that. You have other assets that are staked that are other third-party apps on XPR. What we're going to do is, so the short answer is it won't affect it at all. So that's really good news, and I was really excited to figure out a solution for this a few months back. They figured out the solution. Essentially what it is we're going to take all the old chain state history. So if you staked 365 days ago or a day ago or a week ago or whatever, after the migration, all that state history will come over, the assets will come over to the new chain. And so essentially it's just really a matter of upgrading the endpoints on the front end of different web apps and so forth to connect to it. But it will all be there. So if you're staked, whether it's loan or it's some other asset that's outside of Metal ecosystem, it will all be there when we move over, and you won't have to do anything.
Okay, great. Any more questions for yourself?
No, I think I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, great. Draghi, back with us.
Can you hear me?
I can hear Draghi now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So Marshall, firstly, thanks for fronting the community, mate. We appreciate your transparency and enthusiasm. My question relates to WebAuth. I think it's a good segue to what Bullish was sort of pointed out. And the question is, and I don't know how much you can tell us in this forum, but what is the, with the banking sector and the fintech sector, obviously, customer security and privacy is of like the utmost importance to get that right. So in your discussions with prospective fintechs and banks, what's the general feedback around the WebAuth proposition and how all that works? Can you talk to that?
Yeah, so I can't disclose any, private information or things that are under NDA, but we have some awesome clients and partners that we're working with. And one of the first things that they notice from, banks and credit unions, they notice when they look at the technology that we built is they really like the identity portion, and they like the idea of having, a secure white label branded wallet, right? So what our partners are not interested in is, hey, just import this thing into MetaMask, right? Which has been a nightmare for being phished and scammed and hacked, as we know, right? It's, and that is not something our partners are interested in. And they have done the research and they've looked at it. So like when you see Citibank talking about tokenizing the blockchain, they're not using MetaMask. No offense, MetaMask, but it's an HSM, right? It's a hardware security module. It's some sort of multi-sig signing module. Now, the thing about WebAuth is the technology is there, right? It's much more advanced. It's not that same user experience where you accidentally sign something. And even the most technical and advanced people, like the founder of Axie Infinity last week, lost $10 million. This guy isn't a novice, right? But the interface and the way things work on Ethereum are it's not so much Ethereum's fault. I would say it's more the interface, right? But it is very risky, and you can very quickly sign away your assets. So when we show that to our partners and our clients, they are like, wow, this is incredible. It's an incredible user experience, incredible security experience when it comes to having like the ability to have multi-signature signing keys that are delegated by device and attached to identity. That's something that you won't find on any other blockchain. And they are racing to replicate this. So as you see our competitors out there. All of a sudden Ripple's wallet has identity in it. For what? I don't know, but they're looking at what we're doing. And now Binance has the Binance Trust Wallet Swift, browser with passkeys. So they're looking at web authentication too. But there's only one WebAuth.com, right? We did it first. We're the originator, and we're going to bring it to Ethereum. We're going to do it better than anyone else. And when our partners and clients see it and see what we've done just with XPR, it's a game changer. So that's something that we have been requested to white label and to build it out. And when our partners are looking at building technology, the achain model is definitely something that makes more sense. But that being said, we are extending the identity layer to Metal Blockchain C-Chain to Ethereum, and we will extend it to other chains as well, and the WebAuth wallet non-custodial capability to other chains as well, starting with Ethereum and the Metal L2. So yeah, we're really thinking big, and the response that we've gotten from the banks has been incredible. I think a lot of other blockchains have gone out there and focused on the marketing fanfare, and hey, can we just get to this like little whatever technical partnership, but it amounts to nothing in terms of how it is used in the day-to-day, or even for that particular blockchain that they may be building the tech off of. We have a really solid vision. When you look at Metal Dollar XMD and the ecosystem, XPR is the town hall, and Metal Blockchain is the base and platform for all of the blockchains, all of the bank chains, and public chains like XPR can talk and connect to each other. And some of those chains are going to be private, and that's that was the missing link when banks were looking at Hyperledger. Was like, what's the point of having this private ledger that doesn't really do anything above what we already had, right? There is an interest in crypto, but it just has to be permissioned. So yeah, very good response to it, and I'm excited to make an announcement shortly about Metal Identity and how we're extending that out.
No, that's perfect. It sounds like, from a compliance perspective, it sounds like the WebAuth proposition seems to tick their boxes, and you've answered that. So thanks for that. Thanks, James.
Yeah, so another question we've got, Marshall, is about in the wallets, the difference between, I think, owner and active. So there's some misinformation being spread around this topic in terms of the owner and the active keys, I would imagine they're referring to. So is this something you can clarify? I mean, I'm not being very specific, but...
Yeah, I can explain how these keys work. So you have different levels of permission on XPR network. And it's you also have the partner permission, or you can create other permissions as well. But the main two ones that you need to know are owner and active. And when you create a wallet on WebAuth, for example, it will use the same key for owner and active. So it generates one key pair, your public and private key, and and attaches an alias to that, your @name. And then that key pair is now your owner and your active key. Now you can go in and manually add other active keys, or add a different key for owner or a different key for active. The owner key has full permission to change any keys at any time on that account. It can do anything. It's the root access. The active key can do everything but change the owner key. So when you add a new device on WebAuth, you're adding active keys, right? Each one of those keys is not the same as the owner key, and that device cannot remove any other devices. Only the original device that was set up with the owner key can do that. So owner is the root permission, and active is the regular, sub permission. Most people do not need to mess with this stuff, but that is how it works. And at some point, we're looking to add a functionality to WebAuth where when you sign up, once you get your identity, once you've done your KYC, we would have the ability to add a multi-sig owner key to your account that would allow us to help you recover your private keys in the event you lost access. And that would be some sort of automated / manual biometric verification where if you wanted to reclaim your keys, you have to re-KYC, and then somebody would have to interact with you and make sure that everything was there, and like an opt-in kind of scenario. But the owner key is your root permission. The active key is generally are your devices.
So as it stands today, there's no tie-in between the KYC part and the ownership key, right? So for example, if a crime was committed on the chain, right, you could, I'm guessing, deny a certain key access to the service, but you couldn't, your services, right, that you have built and created in line with, compliance, but you couldn't necessarily do anything to the wallet.
Correct. Yeah. So there was, I saw people were talking about that, some rumor too. They were saying, we have full control of your wallet to do anything. No, we don't. We built the software in such a way that it's non-custodial, like every other crypto wallet, just like Anchor. So if you lose your key, we cannot get you back in. And we have had that tough conversation with users who have lost their keys. We always do our best to help them recover. But unfortunately, and some people know this because it's happened to them, if you lose your key, that's it. We can't. And that's crypto, right? That's and so that's one of the reasons we want to add that capability where you could opt in to have recovery capability. And we experimented with other things like backing up the keys as encrypted files to Google Drive or iCloud or whatever. But ultimately, I think the best way to do it is biometric authentication with permissions, and we'll probably roll that out at some point this year. But yeah, we don't have access to your wallets. And when you do when you attach a digital identity to an account, it's like getting a stamp on it, right? That you are James or you are Marshall. And from this database where the information is securely stored, we can see that, so we can authorize you for banking services, credit card payments, all types of stuff. In the future, it's going to be sort of like an open source Apple Pay, if you will, right? Where you can invoice someone and the user can decide what information they want to share and what information they don't. But the idea is that you're in control of it. Yeah, and that digital identity, you can verify as many times as you want. So you can have as many accounts verified with your name as you want, but they always link back to one identity. So if somebody did commit a crime or do something wrong, all of those accounts are obviously going to be banned from interacting with our services, at least.
Okay, so that's what I just wanted to point out, because that's the misinformation going around, right? You only have control over your proprietary technology, your services that you provide.
Correct.
The wallets
Yeah,
themselves.
and that's the decentralized part. Is that like, so for example, in MetalPay, it's different. It's a centralized platform, and we can get you back in no matter what. It's like Coinbase. But in WebAuth, that is a decentralized platform and wallet. And if you lose your keys, we can't necessarily get you back in. In some cases, sometimes we can help people get back in, but it's really like us kind of, finding some way that the user has still stored a key somewhere. So like somebody lost their, I'll give you an example, somebody lost their private keys and we can't recover them and they don't have them, but they added a device with their iPad or their computer, and we tell them, hey, take that device and check if you can still get in. And lo and behold, they can. If it's just the active key, so they can't change the owner key, but at least they can get the money out, right? But we would like to change that in the future where anybody could opt into a service to be able to recover while still holding their keys. We just haven't built that out yet.
Okay, so ultimately in line with all compliance standards that apply to all many services businesses, right? Whether they're in the crypto space or not.
Exactly. So we add a layer of compliance and identity to it, but it doesn't mean that we have control, but it means that we can deny access.
Okay, thank you for clarifying, because that was one of the big pieces of misinformation going around. That was, with a lot of people, they were getting concerned about. So actually there's
Sorry, I was gonna say it's preferable that way too, because if somebody did something bad, you don't want them to bring their stolen money on your platform or whatever and then find out. It's much better to deny them at the door, and that's how our system works.
Okay, yeah, makes sense to me. That's all from my side, I guess. Karu, do you have any questions from your side, or Bullish, Braggy, you're still up here? Any more questions?
They were trying to compare it to Anchor Wallet, saying, well, over here, Metallicus doesn't have access, and you can use that. It's all FUD. I'm on a FUD stomping campaign right now. While I'm on the subject, they're trying to say that Marshall was a secret creator of MetaMask. He had something to do with MetaMask, which I abruptly said, absolutely not. He cannot stand MetaMask. And that he had something to do with Tendermint. I'm like, if he had something to do with Tendermint, just because you saw him in a picture with Do Kwon, whatever his name is from Adam. Yeah, Do Kwon. Yeah, doesn't mean that all of a sudden he's a co-creator of Tendermint. And they're trying to say because one specific AI model says that. And I was like, why would he want to hide the fact that he was a co-creator of Tendermint? He would want that on his resume and be proud of that. Tendermint's amazing. The chain is also able to be coded in Tendermint. So what are you guys talking about? You're not making any sense.
It's crazy talk.
Yeah, a specific AI says it. You can only go to this AI, blah, blah, blah. Like, stop it. Please stop it.
It's like the Michael Jordan meme, stop it, get some help. But it is, I can clear the air on this if people are really wondering, what's my history in it. I've been involved in crypto for a very long time. I, go back over a decade and a half in the space and over a decade, building things in the space. So of course I know, a lot of the OGs and early people, and, Jay Kwon and Ethan Buckman are the founders of Tendermint and Cosmos. And, I was living in SF at the time. Jay was working on that, and his one of his good friends and roommates at the time, Jahan Trembach, who's now very active in the Cosmos community, and also Zaki Manian, even though Jay and Zaki maybe aren't very friendly right now or whatever, we were all friends back in the day, and I was there. And so, I was one of the early backers and supporters and just hanging out in the room, and, big believer in IBC and what they built. And so that's that. And MetaMask, I have nothing to do with that. I definitely have hung out with a lot of the early Ethereum co-founders and team and guys and consensus people, but, I had nothing to do with MetaMask. My first crypto wallet, if you want to research and look, was this thing I built and launched exactly 10 years ago called QuickCoin. And it was just a really simple, easy to use Bitcoin wallet that used your Facebook to allow you to tip people. So you could just basically log into our app and tap people and send them some Bitcoin on chain over Wallpost and Messenger. And that platform got about 1 million users pretty quickly over a few months. And then I left and I joined Stellar, and also early involvement in Dogecoin. But no, I definitely did not create MetaMask. The wallets that I was involved in early on were QuickCoin and Block.io.
And then, of course, the wallet with Glenn with Dogecoin and the Bitcoin wallet.
Right. Yeah, that was so I think that may be referring to Block.io. So Glenn's background was he built the first Dogecoin web wallet. The first Dogecoin wallet was obviously the core wallet, and the second one was this thing called Doge Wallet, but that turned out to be a scam, and they stole everyone's money. And my friend Ben Dornberg organized an event called Saving Dogemas and helped recover some funds. And the first real web wallet was this thing called dogechain.info, which our CTO Glenn built. And that got acquired by a company called Block.io, and that's where I met Glenn.
Any more FUD, guys? Because we're out here stomping it right now. Stomping it in its
I think
tracks. And James, I was telling you the other day, and you were agreeing, that it's happening because they know that there's another proposal coming down the line. So in anticipation for that, they want to ruffle everyone's feathers. If you have no haters, you're not doing anything right. So, Marshall, you must be doing something right.
Thanks, Bullish. Yeah, and the proposal is, for the record, before they try to get ahead of that too, it's not like the Phoenix or anything. It's like in line with other similar proposals that you've seen, but it's just the final code audit. And when we release that, it's going to be a vote for a small grant for the code audit review. And then also it will be briefing everyone with all the technical changes. It's like pages and pages of technical nitty gritty, but we're hoping that the community is excited and gets behind it. And if not, if people are nervous, right? Like, oh, I'm just so nervous about this code change. We don't have to speed run it. Everything works perfectly right now. But when people are ready, if everyone thinks it's the right move, and I think they will, then we'll pass it. We'll get the proposal, across the line. I believe the block producers will follow on, and it's going to be a huge technical upgrade. It's going to be a huge milestone because it's the moment that XPR breaks away from the original Antelope and EOS world. We were kind of, always viewed as an EOS clone chain, but now we are our own animal, and not just any animal, but the fastest animal in the blockchain world, period. And those that are building on it and have really used the platforms, and a lot of people don't do that. They just log into the exchange and just, trade whatever charts look good. They're not actually even using the tech. But if you use the tech, you'll see what we built is incredible. And the achain upgrade is going to be, it's just crazy. Right now, when I deposit, for example, if I send out some USDC, like I'm withdrawing some USDC from XPR, it takes a few minutes for it to hit the chain. It's not instant. But on achain, you hit withdraw and it is there. The second you tap withdraw, it's on the Ethereum chain. It's crazy. But yeah, so go to questions. Sorry about that. Got distracted.
No problem at all. Alan, we'll go to you next.
I just wanted to ask what it means for existing dApps and projects on the chain. How does that affect them with the new blocks, shall we say, not migration, but yeah. Is there any change for us?
Hey, Alan, hope you're doing well, and congrats on the game. There's no changes for anyone that's developing any code or has anything deployed. You can take the existing code that you've already deployed on XPR and deploy it on achain. But if it's already deployed, then when we do the snapshot of the history and do the migration, it will all be there, right? So one block will end and a new will begin, but all of the previous history from the old chain is there. So you actually wouldn't need to do anything from that perspective. We'll publish the technical information, but you may have to change some things on the front end. But it's going to be very minimal. So you don't have to redeploy or migrate coins or tokens or anything like that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back to Drag. You got hands up again?
Yeah, this is off topic, Marshall. I think I recall in one of your old interviews, you were talking about your family history, and one of it was either your granddad or your dad, were they involved in one of the biggest bank mergers in the US, like back in the 70s, 80s? Was that you? Was that one of your family members?
Sort of, yeah. So my grandfather was early on at Merrill Lynch, and he was one of the senior executives over there. He opened the West Palm Beach office and was an executive in the Boston office before that. He left before the merger of Bank of America and Merrill Lynch. So that happened after he was retired. But he obviously still stays in touch with a lot of the senior management and CEO and so forth. So yeah, it was a big Merrill Lynch and now B of A guy before the merger. That happened though after he was retired.
Okay, thanks, mate.
Okie doke. Can easily see that you've taken the metal blockchain pill, Draggy there. 2 questions focused around the banking side of things. Any other, DeFi King, welcome to the stage. Over to you to ask your question.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Marshall, for hosting. My question was about Metal L2. Obviously you just spoke about the achain upgrade, the BPs have to vote on it and everything like that. Are you waiting for that to come first before the L2 launch, or what's going on with that as far as timeline's concerned?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this. The Metal L2 is ready to go to mainnet. So some people saw Blast, launch today. We've kind of been holding off, just waiting for making sure that everything was ready. Our plan with that, and I'm about to make a big post about this as well, is that we do a metal contract upgrade. So MTL was, started in 2017, 66.5 million, capped total supply. And then we slowly gave out about a third of that over POP and through various marketing campaigns in the metal payout. So there were people from, 2018 to 2021 for 3 years that were, essentially just making peer-to-peer payments and in some cases earning thousands of dollars of metal at, 20 cents and all of a sudden, paid off a car or did something crazy. And these are people that are not necessarily, were even really crypto people. So MetalPay brought in, hundreds of thousands of new users into crypto and gave them a great experience. With the L2, the vision is that we can take this thing that was built on Ethereum. It wasn't really intended to be, for one thing or the other. So the original white paper mentions that it's agnostic, and it did stay agnostic because we brought it to XPR and we built the metal down with the stablecoin. And, when I started building metal blockchain, I felt like, we'll just take all these old legacy POW chains and we'll virtualize them. and we'll bring them to Metal blockchain. And we started that work with Bitcoin and Dogecoin. But as we were doing that, we were building the achain as well. We realized, let's not try to do that with Ethereum. Not right now, at least, because there's such a large network effect of the layer 2 movement that trying to bring it to a whole new consensus is something that comes much later, right? So don't try to boil the ocean right away. So, Bitcoin and Dogecoin need a serious critical upgrade right now, right? That's obvious. I saw someone post today that's like, this is a trash network. Ethereum, it's $85 gas fee, and L2s are solving a lot of that problem. But anyways, we saw the potential with Optimism Superchain. When I was writing the Metal paper, the founder, Jinlang Wang of Optimism, helped me edit it. So it's funny how it's kind of come full circle. And so long story short, my vision is that there are sequencer costs, right? And currently the sequencer costs are a lot. It's like $500,000 a month to run an L2 sequencer, right? So that's why only like Coinbase and a few large venture funded kind of turned theirs on, because they could risk the $500,000 a month and the question mark of when does this thing drop to a cheaper price to run? And that's EIP, Ethereum Improvement Proposal 4844, also known as Proto Dankshard, one of my favorite Ethereum improvement proposal names. With 4844, that's going to drop the cost of running an L2 to something much more reasonable. I think it should be at least anywhere from 75 to 90% drop. But still, in order for something like this to happen, you need to have some sort of, I think, perpetual mechanism to fund that. And so my proposal is basically going to upgrade the Metal ERC20 smart contract that it can power the L2, right? But I'd like to launch it ideally before or around the time that the 4844 upgrade comes, so the protocol isn't paying $500,000 a month, because I think that's too much. But we'll see how people react to this idea that I'm about to propose and put it out there. And also, I think the other thing too is when you look at like Blast, right? And the joke today is that Blast mainnet launched and everybody's posting memes of Blast with the chart going up and then way down in terms of TVL. As everybody's withdrawing now because they got their Blast points and they're leaving. I think incentives are important, but you want to do it smart. You don't want to do it in such a way that, yeah, you get 1 billion TVL and the day it launches, you have, 1 million TVL and it's gone down 1,000% or, 10,000% or whatever, right? That's, so I think in upgrading the smart contract, that's how we're going to launch the L2. And that's something that I'm going to propose and put forward to the community. Which direction do we want to take? So Metal DAO is about to undertake a similar direction as XPR. Although XPR is not going to change in supply or in anything like that, we're going to keep everything the way that it is. My proposal for Metal DAO is to upgrade the smart contract to power the L2. And if we can get to consensus on that, we are ready basically today to turn on the Metal DAO L2 mainnet. The Metal L2 and WebAuth is not quite ready yet. So if people don't agree with it right away, that's fine, because we need some time to complete that work as well. But we will be bringing Metal L2 to WebAuth, Optimism Superchain support, so you'd also be able to run Op and Base in it as well. And then probably support other EVMs, other L2s as well in the WebAuth wallet. And we want to bring, you probably have seen Coinbase announcing that they were adding their new experimental wallet protocol in the browser. That's all based on web authentication and passkeys. We pioneered that. So we're going to launch the same thing, but it is going to be infinitely more advanced. We have been for years now, year and a half in the trenches, building web authentication with crypto. We are the originator. We are WebAuth.com. That's why we got that domain. So very excited for that. And that's basically what it is going to be, a proposal to change the contract to power incentives, core dev development, similar to how Optimism has the Optimism grants. Metal would have something similar, like what we've been doing with XPR. And it would basically be a proposal to change the way that Metal DAO works to become an L2.
Awesome. Thanks for the answer. I had just one other question. A while back, there was a preview or something like that on MetalPay that showed quite a few more assets than the ones that are listed. What was that about? Is there going to be any more listings on MetalX?
Yeah, that was a glitch. There was a glitch in our system that pulled an old database. So it pulled up all the coins that were ever listed. And it was funny because people screenshot. They said, I knew they were going to list XYZ asset. Actually, what happened there is that we had listed that asset at one point. We delisted, and then it was in the history in our database. And so when we had this glitch, it showed all these old coins suddenly reappearing. When we started removing a lot of the assets from MetalPay, several reasons. Some of them, people weren't really trading it all that much, or they were just kind of assets on their way out in terms of popularity. In other cases, when we built the full Metal stack, so now the Metal ecosystem powers itself. When MetalPay launched, it was looking at other exchanges to place orders. So it would find a third-party exchange and place the order, and then we would execute that for you. We'd try to find the best price. Now, when it trades, it hits MetalX. So everything is inclusive inside of our own ecosystem. We do have still some rollover technology, and we can source liquidity other places, but for the most part, everything happens in our ecosystem now. So when we pull down assets that are top assets that we would like to see come back, we just want to add them back to MetalX and then reconnect that connection from MetalPay to MetalX. We want to have our own inclusive ecosystem, because I think one of the things we've learned is that we can't really trust all these different centralized exchanges. Some of them, like Coinbase, I think are and Kraken seem to be pretty good. They're on the up and up. But then some of them, as we've learned, are the exact opposite of that. They're nothing but they're down and down, right? Like they're doing all this insane stuff that is going to send, frankly, and has in some cases sent them to jail. The people doing it, right? We don't want to connect to that. And so that was, we kind of saw this coming in some ways. And I'll tell you, in a prophetic moment, I kind of see it coming again, because the thing what happens is that crypto is such an amazing technology and industry where things are moving so quickly, people want to out-innovate each other and launch new things. And from the consumer side and traders, they want to keep finding new ways to get higher and higher profits and returns. And, one of those things in, 2 years ago in 2022 were the DeFi lending markets. And what they did was they created CeFi lending platforms like Celsius and BlockFi and Nexo and et cetera. And they would supposedly manage your assets in these DeFi lending protocols and platforms and so forth. What they weren't telling people was they were putting it all in black, putting it on things like Luna Anchor and things that were completely juiced and fake. And what happened? It exploded and lost billions of people's dollars and things like that. So when we were looking, we're like, hey, look at Gemini with this Earn program. That looks pretty cool. How do they do that? No, they're running with this company called Digital Currency Group and Genesis. We researched into Genesis. How is Genesis generating these returns? Oh, it's proprietary. We can't tell you. And I know the market pretty well. I was able to pretty quickly figure out like something's wrong here. Where are these outsized returns coming from? And I'm able to trace it down to 3O's Capital and Anchor Protocol. And, Saeed and I looked at Anchor Protocol and I was like, can you explain this to me? Because I don't understand. He's like, I can explain it. It's a scam. And I'm like, damn, really? we even added asset at one point because, things looked pretty good. And then as we started to dig deeper into it, we're like, nope, delist it, pull it down. And I started to warn people about it, but it was almost too late and things exploded. The second time around, so long story short, we built our own DeFi lending protocol, Loan Protocol, right? And Loan Protocol is an incredible protocol where we don't add, like when you look at like what happened with Mango Markets or even Aave, right? They added things that you could use as collateral that were not liquid. And they basically took on loss into their protocols. And they were able to dig themselves out with VC money or whatever. But some of them, like Mango Markets, weren't so lucky. So we built our own protocol. We allow people to borrow and lend through that protocol, and it's non-custodial. One of the other issues that a lot of platforms ran into was being a custodial platform and offering that access was a regulatory no-no. It's either custodial or not. And we figured that out as we were building it. So as we go forward, we'll add more assets, but we're always going to add assets that we believe don't pose extreme risk. And also, we'll never add anything into Loan Protocol that will risk the basket. And when it comes to Metal X, we do the research on the assets before we list them. Of course, we can't guarantee anything, because anything can happen in crypto, but we really do our research. We don't just have like an add anything button or we list whatever's the latest, thing of the week. We really want to give people access to protocols that are building real stuff and are really innovating and not steer people into, and I see this in a lot of the what I call the foreign shadow exchanges. Every day they're listing some new junk and they don't care if you buy the junk or whatever. But we do. And we don't want you to be chasing butterflies of junk. And sure, you can make some money off of some of these things, but where's the technology, right? We want to give you stuff that has real technology. So if you want to buy some ETH and stake it or deploy a smart contract on Ethereum, or you want to buy some Bitcoin, or, you want to buy some Stellar and access something on Stellar Network, we're excited to help you do that. But so much junk out there, we really want to protect you from that.
Awesome, thanks.
So no more third-party sourcing. Done.
Okay, so we've got Upgrade Dave. Welcome to the space. Over to you to ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me, guys?
I can hear you, Marshall. Can you?
Thanks for hosting the space. Hi, panel. My question is, how many more crashes, how far along in the bull run is it going to take for Brian Armstrong to call you to help him switch over to the Metal X DEX? And when he does, are you going to be ready for it?
We were talking about this the other day because it's funny because the running joke at this point is that it's not a bull run unless Coinbase goes down, right? And they go down. And they have, I'm sure, an extreme amount of traffic. I can't even imagine. I don't know. I hope he's listening. I hope he tunes in or he's here on his alts listening in because I do see him post a lot about things like wanting to build a fast and feeless blockchain with digital identity and fiat payments. And once we could send a payment from one user to the other without paying any gas fees and it could instantly get deposited into your bank account, that would be a revolution. And, they're supposedly working on that, but we have already built that over here. We've got it in production, right? And we're getting ready to announce some of our first bank partners. And I think that that's really exciting, because, we basically built it. And it's funny when I see him post stuff about that, because I'm like, man, I usually will quote tweet it or say like, hey, by the way, I kind of did that. We did that with our team at Metallicus over here. Hopefully they notice it. I think that there's a value to being, to not being so flashy and, not saying that that's them, but just in general, not trying to market a bunch of things that aren't and then surprise people with things that they didn't expect that you could do. That's the crypto way. That's what gets people really excited. But it's not the sexy thing because everybody will tell you when you're a founder, when you're building the space, do you have news? Are you ready yet? Were you announced? Will you tell me? Whatever. And you feel this pressure that you have to do that. But as I've grown as a founder and my team in the space, we've also recognized, what we're building, it's a long play. It's a big play. It's, for many times, the crypto has been the unsexy play, the digital identity and banking. And watch as it becomes the biggest conversation in crypto of all. AI is really interesting right now. People are talking about AI because NVIDIA is basically holding up the US stock market. But, and I think AI is very interesting. But banking will be the talk of the town in crypto and blockchain pretty soon. When you start to see banks come in. And with what we're building, we have attracted the right partners and clients, where I think others were focused on the short-term little buzz partnerships or news that actually don't mean anything. That's like, hey, we're going to do this thing. And it's like, then you never hear about it ever again. You'll never be able to use it, certainly. For me, it's really important. And the team, it's really important that you can actually use these things. You could use it in your business. You could use it in your life. So when you see these partners and you see what we're building, it's going to be very exciting because it's real world. It's not just some sort of, get excited about something coming soon and then you never hear about it again. It's like you don't hear anything from us, and then all of a sudden something big comes out, and it's going to be something that you can actually use, right? And for those outside the U.S., I'm sorry, but we are targeting to come to Europe and to other countries as well. So, but baby steps, you got to start somewhere. It makes sense to start in our own backyard.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, do we have any more questions from anyone up on the panel? Bullish, anything from your side?
Yeah, let me just, since I'm on this FUD campaign, I got one other thing that I just want to stop real quick. And before I get to that, DeFi King brought up the layer 2, and I just wanted to show everyone the Metallicus way. So there are lots of options of layer 2s out there. The reason why they're going with the Optimus tech stack is because it aligns with a lot of the things Metallicus is doing. They are virtualizing layer 1s on subnets on Metal for a reason. You want a walled garden in DeFi. You don't want bridges, you don't want oracles, you don't want none of that. So when it comes to the Optimism tech stack, they kind of work in a similar way where they are creating something called the super chain. And how that works is Base is using their tech stack, now Metallicus is using their tech stack, Arbitrum, I believe, uses their tech stack, and they connect all the chains to create what they call a super chain. So it aligns with what Metallicus is building with MetalX, a walled garden, virtualizing on a subnet, no bridges, oracles, things like that. Now, back to the last thing, the last FUD that I keep hearing is during the bottom of the bear market, people are out there, keyboard warriors, and they're doing a lot of AI searching, and they're searching on AI, and they're doing this, and they're looking for any little thing to FUD, and they're trying to bring up a bankruptcy. Metallicus, they're insolvent, they're bankrupt, blah, blah, blah. No. Irina and Marshall believe in this ecosystem so much that they doubled down and reinforce things with their own holdings. And look where we are today, guys. You're up 30%. The bull market's peaking around the corner. We haven't even had the halving yet, which is in April. Everything is back and replentified. So Marshall and Irina believe in themselves so much that they doubled down, reinforced everything, and now it paid off big because now prices are soaring, everything is replentified, and they're back where they need to be. So this FUD campaign needs to stop. People need to, when they read things on Twitter and they're scrolling, they need to take a step back, not act so quickly, and go to the sources. It's very easy. Facts are out there. Marshall and Irina doubled down and it paid off. Everything is fine and we're soaring. You got an L2 coming out, which is the hottest trend in crypto right now, using what I believe to be the best layer 2 tech stack out there right now. No bridges, no oracles, creating a super chain. You're going to plug into Base. So many good things are happening in this ecosystem, and it is future proof. What do I mean by that? The compliance aspect. Everyone's talking about how they hate KYC. Hate it or love it, it is going to be the industry standard. So have your fun now and all the shit coins and all that now. Sure, that's great. You're anonymous. Hey, I love being anonymous too. It's great, whatever, but that is not the future. This ecosystem is built for the future. So love or hate KYC, no matter what, it will be the industry standard moving forward. So when you're coming into this ecosystem, you're serious about your investment long-term for compliance aspect and everything that's coming down the pipeline. That is what this ecosystem is being built for. And it's a mixture between consumer end user and then institutional with the banks. Going after medium to small banks, but there's thousands of them out there in credit unions. And Marshall, he teased that, you're going to start seeing things come down the line. Just be patient, guys. You're in the most compliant ecosystem out there. There's no bankruptcy. There's none of that shit. Stop listening to that bullshit. It's on chain too. You can see it. So that's all I got. I'm just, you guys haven't really heard from me in a while. The only reason why I'm really stepping in now is because of the shit I'm starting to see go around. So I had to step in. Thanks for your time, Marshall.
Thanks, Bullish. And Bullish, you haven't even been able to access a lot of the tech because you're in New York and we don't have our bit license yet. So you see the long range vision. Obviously, we'd love to launch in New York, but we're not going to be like KuCoin and these other guys who, go and do that, don't do it the right way, and then get kicked out forever, right? And can't come back and will never be there. And eventually, a lot of this stuff is going to become pretty standard, right? I believe that there will be regulations that in the future will say, if you're going to hold a balance of stablecoin over a certain amount or redeem it, you probably have to have some sort of on-chain identity. That's going to come ultimately when I think Tether gets the final spanking, which I think is going to come after the Binance stuff, which I predicted in the past. But that is coming, but it doesn't mean that the experience has to be bad. And I'm really excited for when we launch. We're getting ready to launch our metal identity spec pretty soon. You'll be able to use that identity and an app like WebAuth to essentially sign up or log in like you can use with your Apple ID. So you'll start to see that button, sign up, log in with WebAuth on different crypto apps, not only on XPR, Metal blockchain, but other blockchains as well.
Yeah, I see the long-term future, and it's even though I can't use it, yeah, it sucks, but I see everything that's going on, and I tell you something, I don't look up to too many people in this space really. A lot of scholars, a lot of people are selfish and they're just thinking about their pockets. But one of the things that attracted me to the ecosystem besides all the buzz and, oh, look, they're compliant ready, they're future proof, they got this tech. And I'm a big techie, everyone knows that. Even though I can't use it, I look up to you, and I like the way you move in the space. I always love the fact that, wow, this is a CEO. He's got all these things, going on, and he's actually taking the time to talk to James, talk to myself, talk to Draghi, all these people. I'm like, I've never seen that before. Like, sure, I've seen it here and there that they'll only like talk to like top influencers, and they're probably DMing like, don't say this, don't say that. But it's an open book when it comes to you guys and your whole crew, Will, all of them. And that was one of the things that attracted me. Even though I can't use the ecosystem, I want to be involved in some way. And, I know I have a voice, so I just started talking about it and showing my research. And, like I said, I really don't look up to too many people. I'm a strong, bullheaded type person, and I'm a leader myself. But when I met you, it was, it was a whole nother ball game. Like, so as far as people I look up to in the industry, it's very limited. You're up there at the top. There's a couple others, but that was the main thing that attracted me to this. Of course, I love the tech. Of course, I love all that. But the main thing was the way you guys moved and how you handled yourselves and how you took the time to teach me things. Like I've learned a lot from you. Same with James. I learned a lot from him too. But that's all I got pretty much. So I know soon we'll have that bit license. I'll be able to participate one day. But if I can't participate with the financial side, I'm jumping in with my voice. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. Keep on moving the way you're moving. Don't listen to any of that FUD. You guys are building more than anyone I see in the space. Facts over any FUD. Go check the GitHub. That's my famous line. Check the GitHub. Nobody's got more commits in this space.
Thank you, Bullish. Thank you for saying that. It's very flattering, and it means a lot to me for you to say that, because it's very flattering to hear that. Thank you.
Just one thing to add on to what Bullish is saying, right? When it comes to the misinformation, these organizations the Metallicas are dealing with, like if you look at the metal blockchain partnerships in particular, Tokenomics, Jack Henry, Fed now, a lot of people said, oh, it's not going back, they were taken down. It went back up, and then the coke shifted. It was something else. Oh, well, then missiles. And then that'll happen, and there'll be another shift. But these partners, Tokenomics, Jack Henry, Clover, which part of Fiserv, they have teams that are doing rigorous due diligence, right? And they're doing it to a level, they've got years of industry expertise, they're dotting their I's, they're crossing their T's, they're making sure on an architectural level, on a technological level, the security level, the compliance level, that everything is as it should be. And they will take you through the vendor selection process, and as you go through that process, they will make sure that they are limiting their risk, because ultimately, who they bring on board and they associate with is also a risk to them in terms of association and reputation. And you do not get to work and partner with these companies at that level unless they think you're an A-star or an A-star, an A-star player yourself. And that's just a testament. So something to keep in mind is these partners, they do the due diligence. They have teams who, some of these people in their companies have 20 plus years experience in security, 20 plus years of experience in compliance. Whole teams dedicated to looking out for the best interests of those companies. Now I work in an enterprise. I have been involved in part of the vendor selection process. I can tell you it's rigorous. And unless you are the top of the top, you are not making a cut. And that is something to keep in mind. So that's something that you need to know about Metallicas for them to get through the process with these institutions. There's people with a proven pedigree at these institutions who said, oh, these guys are A-star players like us. Let's get involved with them and let's work together and make shit happen. Now I think we have one more. We have another question. So back to the stablecoin question, the stablecoin point. Do you see any problems with USDT slash USDC in the near future on the horizon? What's your outlook on that at the current time, Marshall?
Yeah, I apologize. I can do this one last question, and then I got to jump. But this has been a great and amazing space. Thank you, James, and thank you everyone for being here and asking great questions and supporting us and being part of the dream together. It's legendary. So the question about so USDT and USDC, what do I see happening? This is going to be a crazy time over the next few months for crypto. I predicted this at the end of 2022. I think it was like August or something that I put this little list together for my friends and sent it because I wasn't worried about the consequences at the time of speaking out about such powerful people that, obviously don't take kindly to things like that, what I was saying there, even though it's just a very straightforward prediction. So all that stuff happened, right? And FTX exploded and Binance had its issues. Everything on that list that I put out, which I put out like 6 months or 7 months or a few months after all this stuff had happened, I put that out in 2023 so people could see it because I was less fearful at that time because FTX had kind of already come true and a lot of things it was becoming pretty obvious so people didn't scream at me that it was so much FUD. But one of the last things in that prediction list is that USDT has a big problem. And I think that big problem is looming. The problem is the same problem that happened at Binance around the AML, the anti-money laundering controls. And you see people like this guy Bitfinex on Twitter. He's been going nuts for years. And some of it might seem kind of sensational, but he's not wrong, right? Like a lot of stuff he's saying is correct, right? Like that without the right controls, it's a problem, right? You couldn't just go to a bank and say, I'd like to open an account, but one of your anonymous accounts, please. Right? And then just slap $1 million in paper cash on the table and, count this quickly, please. Yeah, I don't think it works that way. That's kind of what has happened with USDT. And now you have this indictment. Well, they've already admitted to the wrongdoing and are due for sentencing. They submitted the largest fine in U.S. history for a non-bank institution, $4.2 or $4.3 billion, something like that. And he's supposedly going to have only 18 months in jail. It's very serious. But it could be much longer. That's just a recommendation. Now we'll show you. You can't, even with $4.3 billion, you can't buy your way out. And that's pretty much the largest fine you could pay, right? So what's going to happen? I think that one of two directions is possible. Guaranteed some sort of remediation, some sort of penalties for any involvement in anything that could have been circumventing the Bank Secrecy Act and the laws in the U.S. around anti-money laundering, counterterrorism, so forth. If there was anything that was circumvented that touched the U.S. or affected the U.S. in some way, there's going to be some issues, right? And so if a lot of these things that I predicted would happened, and they're connected to that, then it's obvious that probably some executive at that organization is going to face something similar to what we just saw, right? And then the question is, does it become like a semi-pseudo state-controlled entity like what has happened to Binance, which has such critical oversight that you could almost say the U.S. government practically runs it at this point, which was an outcome I did not expect, honestly. I think that the government, you kind of have to give them some praise for not just nuking the thing and basically, hurting the consumer, because they could have just taken the website offline, right? They didn't do that. They took control of it. They negotiated a deal. Both sides were willing to come to the table. So it seems like something worked out. Something like that could happen in the future, right? Cantor Fitzgerald holds all these treasuries for Bitfinex, for Tether. Maybe they could work out some sort of deal and they buy it and somebody comes in and fixes it. But then the question is all the money there? What's the level of the fines? If 4.2 billion was the Binance one, could the Tether one be 10 times larger? Could they even afford that? A lot of questions, right? And I think what'll happen is there will be a stablecoin regime change. What will happen is a lot of the perpetual futures markets are settled in USDT. That's going to change to USDC, XMD, USDP, PayPal, PYUSD. It's going to be a completely new stablecoin world in 2 years from now. And you probably won't see Tether in the top list anymore. And if you do, it will be called Cantor Fitzgerald dollar or something else, right? After they acquire a distressed asset. But also what I believe will happen is you will see a lot of exchanges kind of shifting. You may have noticed that in the XMD basket, the Tether's gone. We pulled it down because we can't support that. We've done our research on it, and it's just not an asset that, and assets change over time. We recognize there were just too many red flags and too many issues. Aside from all these potential AML issues, also is it fully backed? Well, Cantor is saying it is, so at least that's good. But there's just such big problems here. One of the nice things about XMD is that it's a basket, so we can add and remove stablecoins, and you won't feel that pressure, right? In the old way of doing things, you have all these USDT pairs across the entire exchange, and if you need to now have a new stablecoin in there, it's a whole matter of delisting and relisting all these new pairs and creating new markets for them, and it's a nightmare, right? From a consumer perspective, from anybody who's built on the platform and is connecting to those pairs via API or something. Metal Dollar just allows us to kind of just pull it out, and you don't even feel it, right? It's like, oh, everything's working fine. So we're going to extend XMD out to Ethereum. We're going to extend it out to other networks, and we really want to grow. And we want to sell those identity services as well. Metallicus is part of our business, but also the open source tech that we're building, and we hope becomes a standard around that. But yeah, I think TLDR, I think they do face some sort of action. The question is, does it fully implode, or does it go to some sort of distressed auction, or does it come under intense government scrutiny and the board appoints a new CEO or something like that? I hate to kind of point it like at people's actual names or different things. I don't really know what will happen, but I can tell you that something's going to happen, and it's going to be an enforcement action. There's going to be a change of hands. That's very obvious to me. It won't just keep going on. And the ETF, the Bitcoin ETF, the joke between myself and a bunch of my trader friends is that BlackRock replaced Tether. So instead of doing the enforcement action on Tether right away, maybe just allow the ETF to appear, which essentially creates its own stablecoin in the securities markets, which has a lot of liquidity. And then you have basically USD against BTC and the connection of BTC with arbitrage through the ETF to all of the crypto exchanges, and that carries over to other stables and alts. But when the liquidity of Bitcoin gets so heavy and so frothy and thick with all of the everyone from BlackRock to, even the Vanguard CEO got fired because he didn't add the ETF. Now you have all these large funds that are coming in. It's going to be much more difficult for a stablecoin that doesn't have backing to, quote, manipulate the market if that's really what's happening. So what I see happening is there will be a complete change in stablecoins. The top stablecoins that you see now today will kind of all be moved around. I do think that Circle is in a precarious position because when the Tether thing goes down, a lot of people will take their Tether, go to USDC, and try to redeem. So it could draw the market cap down a lot. Won't change the functionality of the USDC at all. Still work great. I think Jeremy's doing a great job. Team is doing great. They are one of the best teams, if not the best stablecoin team out there right now. But they are going to face a lot of pressure. Where you saw if you take the two market caps of Tether and USDC and you overlay them, it's a hilarious. It's like so symmetrical. It's very obvious what's going on here. Tether prints the unbacked coins, redeems them through USDC. This is why they banned Justin Sun from the ability to redeem the coins. And they went one step further and said we're going to remove USDC off the Tron network just to ensure that it doesn't touch anything that he touches, right? Which tells you that other point in my bullet point in my prediction list will come true as well. That he's going to be into some trouble because I think we know that he's connected to some of that. But again, this is all speculation. I don't want him to get all upset. He knows what I'm talking about. Everybody else has seen it. It is what it is. I'm just speaking facts, right? They removed it from that network. Why did they do that? My speculation is because there's going to be this kind of implosion. And during that time, you're going to see new stablecoins pop up. I think you're going to see a lot of synthetic stablecoin attempts pop up. And I think that newer regulations are probably going to press those synthetic stablecoins in a way that'll be much more difficult for them to launch. And I want to say hi to Jason Brett. I see him in the audience giving me the 100 because he knows what I'm saying is true about the synthetic stablecoins. Reality is that at the end of the day, if you have a digital representation of a dollar, you're going to want to have a real dollar in a real bank account that's overseen by the Federal Reserve and Treasury and so forth, because that's the only way to guarantee redemption of a real dollar is to actually own one. The synthetic thing, it's cool. It's an experiment. It's very interesting, but we can't allow mom and pop to be accessing UST and thinking that 20, 40% APY yield is normal. And the last thing I'll end on is that let's not repeat the mistakes of last cycle. You know, this whole thing of restaking, you know, rehypothecating assets, is a staked layer with another layer on top, and I'm earning the staking yield from, you know, the Ethereum that's staked underneath this synthetic version they have, and then I lend out the synthetic version to another protocol to make yield on top of that. Just trust me when I say it's a very, very bad idea. And even though, you know, it might be working now, it can create this mountain of risk that's basically stacked on top of like a toothpick or a popsicle stick that at some point is just going to snap, and all that cascading weight is going to cause what they call forced liquidations. And that's what caused the winter of 2022. We put all that, you know, what happened was people were trusting these big name brands like Gemini, BlockFi. Oh, what could they couldn't do anything wrong. No, they absolutely could. And they put all of your money on black. They put all the money into 3 Arrows Capital, funneled it up the top to these two super degen guys who are basically criminals now. I think one of them has an open arrest warrant for his name, and the other one's already served his time, apparently. And they mismanaged it and lost all the money, and it collapsed Bitcoin all the way down to 14K. And, you know, at the end of the day, whether you're laser-eyed maxi or you're super altcoin guy, you're whatever end of the spectrum you're on, we're all fighting the same thing here. We want to own our own money. We want opportunity, and we want to control our own money and our destiny. That's the reality. And so let's not fall prey to the gains chasing to create unsustainable bad systems that when they explode, the outside world looks at us and says, you guys, you crypto people did this. How could you do this? Well, we have already experienced one really bad explosion. Let's not do it again. I think Eigenlayer, all this stuff is very cool, but please do not rehypothecate assets on top of rehypothecating assets, because when you do that, you will have an explosion. And Metallicus will always innovate responsibly for you. And I just will keep saying this message, and I hope that this time in the cycle is very different and that we learn from that lesson. You know, 5% is great. 50% is not long-term sustainable. So I'll end with that. Thank you, everyone. I'll see y'all. Cheers.